Hey YouTube, Matty's8012 here with another video for legit YuGiOh, and in this video I'm going to talk about Go Control and lessons you can learn from playing Go Control. I just recently wrote a couple of articles for legit YuGiOh about Go Control, and if you head over to the link down below, it'll take you to those articles where you can read those and see what I'm going to be talking about in this little video series. But if you'd like to be entertained by videos, then you can just go ahead and stick around for this little video representation of those articles. But make sure you do head over to legit YuGiOh and check out all the YuGiOh articles over there. But for right now, I'm going to talk about lessons you can learn from playing Go Control and how they translate over into the current meta and the current game of YuGiOh. And in this one, I'm going to talk about recognizing the enabler. Now, there are a couple of little loops that you can make in Go Control, and a lot of them are started by YuGiOh, and these are all plays that you can make where you're essentially making the same play every turn, and it gains you the same advantage every turn, and it's a play that is as simple and straightforward as it can be, but is really hard for your opponent to deal with. So the play that I want to talk about right now is we got Pot of Greed in the graveyard. You've got Magician of Faith on the board. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip Magician of Faith, get back my Pot of Greed, activate Pot of Greed, draw a couple cards. So let me grab those cards. Boom, there you go. Draw a couple cards. And then I'm going to summon YuGiOh, flip Magician of Faith back face down. Maybe attack for the 1100 that YuGiOh is. Oh. Then during the end phase, YuGiOh will then return to my hand, and I'm going to, at that point, rinse and repeat. Say Magician of Faith lasts through the turn. If he doesn't, then you've attacked, and I'm going to get my Book of Moon back again. That gives me a third time that I'm going to get to activate my Book of Moon. Say you don't attack it, though, and I get to flip it. Add my Pot of Greed back, activate my Pot of Greed, draw two more cards, and then I'm going to summon YuGiOh, flipping Magician of Faith back face down, and maybe I'm going to get to draw, activate my Pot of Greed for a fourth time with Magician of Faith's effect. So as you can see, this is a rather simple play, and if your opponent cannot stop either the summon of YuGiOh or the effect of YuGiOh in some way, then this is something that's going to be really hard for your opponent to deal with, and it can just continue to just loop and loop and loop, and is going to be a major issue for your opponent, and could lead to your opponent losing the game, as simple as this play may be. So, another situation where YuGiOh was enabling me to take major advantage of a game. I had YuGiOh in hand. I had an Exarion Universe on board. My opponent was already past one Nobleman of Crossout. And I had played Trap Dust Shoot earlier, and I knew that he did not have a second Nobleman of Crossout. However, he did have a couple of unknown back row. So as opposed to attacking with my Exarion Universe and risking my Exarion Universe being destroyed, I decided to set my Sinister Serpent. So I set my Sinister Serpent on the board. I pass turn to my opponent. He draws his one card. He places that one unknown card on the field. So it's not the Nobleman of Crossout, because if it was, he would have probably tried to remove my monster. At that point, he passes turn back to me. I draw and everything, and I decided to tribute my Sinister Serpent for the Jinzo that I had just drawn. At this point, I felt comfortable because the three back row that he had, I felt that I could push through those back row because Jinzo would protect me from those. So, unlike the turn before where I did not feel comfortable attacking with the Exarion, I now attack with the Jinzo, where my opponent responds with Book of Moon, flipping Jinzo face down. Again, I don't feel comfortable attacking because the Exarion Universe, I don't want to lose it. So my Jinzo is now face down. He now has access to his traps. I don't feel comfortable, so I leave it set. So my opponent then draws does not have an answer to this field that I still have, even though I have no back row and he has the 3 back row, or the 2 back row at this point. Sets another 3rd back row and passes turn back to me. I draw. I get my Sinister Serpent back. I flip some of my Jinzo, and now I feel comfortable pushing at the 24 and 18, which turned out to be the first damage of the game for me. Main phase 2, I decided to normal summon my Sinister Serpent and metamorphosis my Sinister Serpent into Thousand Eyes Restrict. Now this seems a little odd because normally you're using Thousand Eyes Restrict to take your opponent's monster. In this situation, I'm using Thousand Eyes Restrict to lock out my opponent. He's no longer able to shut me out or to do anything towards my monsters with battle or anything because of Thousand Eyes Restrict, and he also is shut out of his traps because of Jinzo. But this also keeps me from being able to attack too. However, having no answer to this board, my opponent passes. I then normal summon my Tsukiyomi, flip Thousand Eyes Restrict face down. I can now attack with my Exarion Universe over the monster that he had set with his trample, attack for 24, and attack for 11. Main phase 2, flip Thousand Eyes Restrict back face up, which now my opponent is shut off from attacking. Tsukiyomi comes back to hand. Again, he can't answer. I summon Tsukiyomi, flip Thousand Eyes Restrict face down, attack with my monsters. Tsukiyomi returns, flip Thousand Eyes Restrict back face up, shuts him out of his monsters. So you see, the issue that my opponent had, even though he had the Jinzo shutting off his traps, and he had the Thousand Eyes Restrict shutting off his attacks, and then shutting off his traps. The real issue my opponent had was the fact that I was able to summon Tsukiyomi, flipping my Thousand Eyes Restrict face down and allowing me to still attack where he was not allowed to. So again, the issue that he had was the Tsukiyomi's effect, not the actual board that I had built. So where does this apply to the meta now? Obviously, Tsukiyomi is not being used right now to flip Magician of Faith face down and reuse it. What is being used right now is stuff like the Double Dante Fire Lake effect, where you're activating your Fire Lake, destroying 3 cards of your opponent's, tributing off your Dantes, and then your Dante adding the Fire Lake back to your hand, allowing you to then again reuse the same Fire Lake. So where that is happening, we need to take a chance to look at what is actually enabling your opponent to do that. Is the problem that you're having the Fire Lake and the advantage that he's able to gain by what she's destroying? Is the enabling issue here the fact that Dante can add the Fire Lake back to hand? In the same aspect, Jeff Jones has done extremely well here recently with his Shadal deck, where he has been using enemy controller during the battle phase, using his fusion monster, attacking with it, then activating his enemy controller, tributing off his construct or his fusion, whichever he was using, to take control of your monster, attack with it. Well, whenever the fusion leaves the field, he also gets to add El Shadal Fusion back to his hand. So he adds the El Shadal Fusion back to his hand. After attacking with your monster, now he's going to activate the quick play El Shadal Fusion from his hand, continuing his attack phase. So the amount of attacks that he's able to gain through the use of enemy controller and the El Shadal Fusion and the super polymerization all being quick plays is almost astounding. So what is the enabling factor in all this? The abuse of the battle phase. Are we then wanting to side deck in stuff like Wabaku? Do we want to side deck in stuff like Threatening Roar, chainable things that can stop the attacks? If you do, you've really not stopped his ability to add that stuff back and to be able to reuse all that stuff. If you're side decking in something like DD Crow that can remove the El Shaddai fusion and the Fire Lake, then you're able to cut them off from those cards. But then again, they're going to add different cards, if you would. If you remove the El Shaddai fusion, when a fusion monster will leave the field later, he's just going to grab a Shaddai fusion as opposed to, so what effects are we actually, is your opponent using to enable themselves to gain the advantage? I really hope that you can take the simplicity of Go Control and realize what is actually causing that problem. Now, I'm not here to actually tell you what you should side deck in against Shaddolls and Burning Abyss. That's not the goal that I have right now. The goal that I'm wanting you to, the purpose of this video is for you to realize that there are simple plays that your opponent can make that can gain them simple advantage and can allow them to steamroll you if you don't do something to stop the simple advantage they are gaining. So there you go, guys. That's just some of the thoughts of the things that I feel like you can learn from playing Go Control, and some lessons that I hope you can then translate from playing Go Control into playing your current day Yu-Gi-Oh. So I appreciate it, guys. Make sure you head over to Legit YuGiOh, read my articles on Go Control, and like always, I appreciate it. Subscribe, comment down below, show us how much you love us.